This is a story of how our family lives changed when feminine was introduced into the world, where society was strongly intolerant of boys who dared show their feminine side. Feminine was a newly developed superestrogen hormone that feminized boys, permanently making their breasts grow and, if applied before puberty, steered the body towards developing female secondary sexual characteristics, including inhibiting the normal male growth spurt, broadening the hips, growing breasts, and creating a petite body with slender shoulders, hands, and feet. It is the story of how our boyish, love of adventure, recklessness, and risk-taking behavior turned our world upside down. Jonah burst into the lounge room with a look of triumph and secrecy on his face. We knew we were in for a fun time. I was keen to know what he was up to, as it's hard for 14-year-old boys to be left alone and told to behave without some distraction. Karen, our mom, had finally had enough of Jamie, our 12-year-old brother, catching him fondling our older sister's lingerie in the laundry. Now Mom and Debbie, who is our bossy 18-year-old sister, have taken Jamie off to the doctors to give him a feminine shot that would make his chest grow large feminine breasts and stunt his normal boyhood development so that he would only ever grow to the stature of a small, dainty girl. Boys treated with feminine were destined to serve both males and females as maids, wearing pretty dresses and maids' uniforms. Jonah and I always thought that might happen to Jamie. More than once I had saved his bacon, warning him when Mom was coming home and him jumping out of the frilly apron or with whatever he had been playing with. His excuse for doing it was that it was for the adrenaline rush you get when risking everything, when the stakes are so high. But I always wondered. He even got me and Jonah involved once with the maids' outfits that Mom had put in our wardrobes. She put them there as a temptation, she said. She only wanted real boys and girls, not maids, she had said. And if she found any evidence at all that we had tried on the outfits, she would take us down to the doctor and give us a shot before we knew what was happening. Well, Jamie went on and on about the daring do and risks being so much fun that, against our better judgment, we agreed to each take turns and put on the full maid's uniform for at least 10 minutes before the next one could take their turn. While we were doing it, we were wondering, when was Mom coming home? Would we get caught? It was frightening, but once my turn was over and the outfit was off, I felt exhilarated. Jamie was last to take his turn and he nearly did get caught. He was fully dressed when we heard Mom's car pull up. We all rushed to our rooms to put our uniforms back so they looked perfect and undisturbed. Poor Jamie had to undress, get dressed in his normal clothes, and carefully place the uniform in a neat pile. I raced to my room and in a panic just finished putting everything straight, turned around, and there was Mom at the door. "Why are you so excited and breathing hard, Julian?" she asked. "Were you fooling around with the maid's uniform while I was out?" Blushing furiously, I replied, I was playing hide and seek, Mom. I was just looking to a place to hide." Mom came over to the maid's uniform and had a look. I nearly pissed in my pants. She looked at the pile of clothes carefully, and fortunately my careful packing passed inspection. Mom turned and left to inspect the next room. At least while Mom was in my room, it was giving Jamie time to change. He had heard my excuse as he had the room next to me. I could hear her questioning Jamie, and he also said that he was looking for a place to hide. Silence followed as I could imagine her looking at Jamie's pile of maid's clothing. She was still suspicious and asked why his pile of clothes looked like they were disturbed. I heard Jamie explain that in his excitement he knocked it as he was looking for a place to hide. "Well, your story matches Julian's, so I'll believe you this time, but there will be no more excuses next time, understand?" After Mom left us to ourselves, we got together and nearly fell of our chairs laughing so hard, mostly with relief and a feeling of shared bravado. That night, however, while lying in bed, the shock must have caught up with me because I shivered when I thought back on the close shave we had. That was 2 months ago. Now that Jamie had been rushed off to the doctor, and I was really worried and wondering what would happen now with Jamie. Would he recall our little adventures and perhaps tell on us and get the same treatment? Now back to the present and Jonah's cheese-eating grin. "Look what I found in Jamie's room," he said. I looked at the white, half-used tube he held out to me. At first it looked like the large tube of toothpaste we had in the bathroom, then I saw that the label was different. I read the label as Jonah was bobbing up and down in anticipation of a revelation. The label had a magic hat and wand on it that was the symbol of the magic shop in the mall, a place that everyone went to when we were looking for ideas for practical jokes. I saw a crude drawing of a pair of boobs. "Boobs for 10 minutes, it read. "Mix it with sun cream and give it to your friends. Then wait for the fun and games as they try and hide their sudden boobs at the beach," it went on. I looked up without reading the rest, letting the information sink in. So Jamie was experimenting and using this cream. He must have really wanted to get changed if he was experimenting with this, Jonah said. "You know what would be a real adrenaline buzz? We try it and get back to normal before Mom and Jamie come back." I nearly fainted in fright at the idea. "No way, man, that's just too freaky for me," I said. "After what's happening to Jamie, I wouldn't dare." "What, are you a scared little sissy?" "No, I'm not. How do we know that it will return us to normal in 10 minutes? It's too risky." "Read the rest of the label then," Jonah said. I read the label. That is what it guaranteed, all right, but it's something about side effects in very small writing. "Flashbacks, triggers? What's that mean?" I asked. Jonah got impatient with me. "Come on, Julian, will I have to tell Mom that you're a sissy too?" I gulped. "Okay, but we do it together, so if we get caught, we're in it together," I said. "Mom will be home later, so we will have plenty of time," encouraged Jonah. With that, we quickly stripped off our t-shirts and Jonah said, "I'll put some on both our hands and we'll rub it on at the same time," he said as he squeezed some into my hand. I saw him put some in his hand, then I quickly rubbed it into my chest. It started feeling hot before it was all rubbed in. My knees were shaking with fear and excitement. Then I saw Jonah had not rubbed it onto his chest. "Shit, Jonah, we better be in this together or I'll sneak into your room and muss up your maid's uniform and tell Mom you're a sissy too if you chicken out now," I yelled. Okay, I was just curious to see what will happen," he said as he rubbed the cream onto his chest. But it looked a lot less than he put on my hand. Just then, my chest got tingly and tight. I could feel my chest swelling. I could see breasts growing before my eyes. I gasped for air as I saw the swelling keep increasing. I couldn't take my eyes off my chest. I had breasts as big as Mom's. I suddenly panicked. What was I thinking? There was Jamie being carted off to a maid's life and we were risking the same fate. I put my hands on my swollen chest. My nipples were suddenly so sensitive. I suddenly wanted out and I couldn't do anything about it. Jonah was holding his chest too, but I noticed that he had much smaller breasts than I had. He was the chicken. I felt like he double-crossed me, yet, here he was sharing the same danger. It didn't matter if we were caught with large or small breasts, the consequences would be the same. I looked at my watch, 2:10. By 20 past, we should be back to normal. I looked up. Jonah was smiling while lewdly rubbing his breasts. We both laughed and laughed. I jumped up and down, making my boobs bounce, feeling the shifting of weight, feeling the discomfort, but laughing all the same. Jonah fell on the floor laughing. We were sharing the danger, laughing at our temporary boobs. Soon we stopped. My throat was hurting from the laughter. Then I calmed down. 15 past. Another 5 minutes, then everything should be back to normal. I had a thought and put on my t-shirt to see what I would look like dressed with boobs. I paraded in front of the mirror, turning one way and the other. I noticed a slight greasy stain where my big nipples were. Oh, the t-shirt was stained. I took it off and looked at the stain. I thought I could disguise it by covering it with a food stain and pretend I dropped a sandwich on my chest. That would do. But now to wait, it was 22 past, my new breasts were as big as ever, I looked at Jonah's chest, it had deflated already. Now I was panicking. Jonah, what's happening? Yours are back to normal, but I've still got mine. You must have got a double dose, maybe it will go down in a few more minutes or maybe in 10 minutes. I kept thinking of what was happening to Jamie, I freaked. I'll jump in the shower, that might help, I said as I headed for the bathroom, stripping off my jeans and undies on the way. I was soon in the shower, under cold water, waiting for it to heat up. I didn't mind, I grabbed the soap and started washing. I could feel them deflating and was relieved. After another 5 minutes, my chest was back to normal and I headed out of the shower, dried myself and got dressed. The breast area still tingled from the unaccustomed stretching. At the back of my mind though, I had doubts. Did the nipples still look a little swollen and thicker, and were the areoles a little larger and darker? Jonah was still laughing. You should have seen yourself running to the shower, that was so funny. I smile, yeah, I suppose it must have been. I said, relieved I was back to normal. I was still a bit shaky, and I still had to cover my tracks. Jonah, put that cream back, I'll make a jam sandwich and spill it on my t-shirt, that should do. I hurried to the kitchen, made the sandwich and did just that. Took off the t-shirt and threw it in the wash. I got a new t-shirt just as Jonah was coming back from Jamie's room. It was only minutes later that we heard Mum's car arrive home with Jamie. Jonah and I looked at each other, then at each other's wide eyes, then laughed and laughed. We had made it. We dared and we succeeded. We were just calming down when Mom came in the door with poor Jamie. Jamie was already dressed in a frilly pink satin maid's uniform. He looked glum and surprisingly, still flat-chested. It would take weeks, may a month or two to see any breast development in him, her mom had told us, but still we were expecting something more dramatic. Mom said to him as he entered, "Now you go to your room and take out all your boy clothes, you have no right to wear them anymore. Then go to the car and get your new maid's clothes and put them away in your room." Mom turned to us, "Now let that be a lesson to you too, any sign that you are going the same way as Jamie and you will be there quicker than you can think. I already had maid names picked out for you when you were born as a matter of fact. Jonah, you could be Joan, and Julian, you could be Julie. Now boys, what do you think of Jamie? Doesn't she look pretty in her maid's uniform?" Mom waited for an answer. We kept our heads down, still flushed from our near escape. "Well, I'm waiting for an answer. Do you think Jamie looks pretty in her maid's uniform?" I thought I should answer. "Yes, Mom, she looks really pretty." "Jonah, what do you think?" Mom asked. "Yeah, she looks pretty," Jonah answered. "You know, you boys would look pretty too if you were in those uniforms," she said as she gave us a speculative look. "Now boys, you had better tidy your rooms before dinner, they were a mess when I came in. You don't want to learn by practicing to be a maid, do you?" "No, Mom," we both said and almost ran to our rooms to clean them up. Having the reality of Jamie hit us hard. We wouldn't stray. A couple of weeks later, after things had settled down and Jamie had settled into her new role, I accidentally heard something that would upset me. As I walked towards the dining room, I heard Jamie and Mom talking, so I slowed down to eavesdrop. I wanted to hear what he was saying. Really, it's hard to believe that all three of you would do that. But if I find any evidence of it, I'll keep my promise and let you wear outer boy clothes to school. I suppose the other boys could make fun of you with your new wardrobe," I heard Mom say. I backed back and turned to find Jonah. He was just coming out of his room when I saw him. I put a finger to my lips to shut him up and pushed him back into his room. Jonah, Mom is offering Jamie bribes to snitch on us. I think he told her about our dare to dress up in the maid's costumes, I whispered. Oh shit! Jonah replied, what'll we do? Keep cool, act surprised and deny everything, we don't have choice, I suggested. Okay, we better get to dinner then. We walked into the dining room to see that there were only 4 places. Debbie came in with a wide grin. I see that we have a new maid, she said, that will be so good, I won't have to do half my own chores, Jamie could handle them. But it would be so nice if Mom and I each had personal maids too. Debbie looked straight at us as we lowered our heads and sat at the table. That'll be the day, I said, you won't catch us doing anything to get us a feminine shot. Oh, Debbie replied, grinning, I thought that you already had. She sat down, brushing her skirt under her as she did so. Did you see how I sat down, brushing my skirt under me? Pay attention, you may have to know how to do that yourself in the near future. I kept quiet, not wanting to up the stakes. I wished that I was invisible. Mom came in from the kitchen smiling. Our new maid is struggling a bit with dinner. Julian, come and help our new maid, Mom said. I rose from my chair and followed Mom into the kitchen. Jamie had his back to me, plating up the dinner. When I arrived, she was getting something from the pantry and then turned around. She had a pretty white lace apron in her hands. Come over here, you are not going to get food on your pretty clothes, Julie, said Mom. What do you mean, Mom? I said, hardly able to keep my voice steady, I'm Julian. And, I don't mind helping, but can I wear the regular denim apron? Oh, sorry, Julie Ops. Julian, I suppose I was just so flushed with having a new maid that I got carried away. But, let me just try this on you anyway, just for a second, hun? Just to see what it looks like on you. I had no choice. I nodded. I turned around as Mom put the frilly little apron on me, tying the straps tightly around my waist. I could see the double rows of gauzy material flow from my shoulders, down to the waist and to the back, while the skirt had the same frills along the bottom. Oh, how pretty, Julie, now help Jamie serve dinner. But Mom, you said it was just to see what it looked like, can't you let me switch it now? Oh, but it looks so nice on you, no, leave it on, she replied. I had no choice but to go over the bench and help Jamie. Mom left the kitchen while I looked at Jamie. His maid's uniform was a light pink silky dress flaring from the hips and finishing just above his knees. He had on an apron that looked identical to mine. After 2 weeks, I thought I could see just a hint that his breasts had grown to the size of soft little pincushions. Jamie, I heard some of what you said to Mom. How could you dob us in like that? Jamie lifted his head. He had been crying, tears blurring his vision. Mom threatened me with worse punishment if I didn't tell her everything. I'm sorry, Julian, I really am. Well, I hope you're satisfied. You've almost got me into one of those uniforms. I said peevishly, totally unsympathetic to Jamie's plight. Now I've had the feminine shot, I know how bad it is to be in this situation. It was just a game to me. I really didn't want this. Now my life is ruined. The shots went straight into my nipples and now they're all swollen and there's a puffy layer under them. What will I do? I can't stop it. I took sympathy on him and gave him a hug while he cried on my shoulder. Having a girly time out, are we girls? Mom said as she re-entered the room. I quickly broke away from Jamie. It's not like that, Mom, he's really upset. Everything is happening so fast for him, can't you give him a break? Watch now, Julian, with such fine feelings, I'd almost consider that reply a feminine way of looking at things. I felt in danger of my position slipping away. It's not Mom, it's what any brother would do, I said desperately. Okay, I'll accept that for now get on with it, we're hungry out here, Mom said as she turned on her heels and left. We quickly finished plating up the meals and headed out the kitchen laden with the food. Jamie's plate was in the kitchen, where he would eat while we ate at the table. I served Mom and Debbie. Debbie had a cheese-eating grin on her face. You look so pretty, Julie. I scowled at her comment. Julie, be polite and thank Debbie for the compliment, Mom said, a hint of menace in her voice. I was walking on eggshells here, I did not want them to start calling me Julie, so I had to stand up for myself, yet apologize. I stared at Debbie for some seconds then said, thank you for your kind words, Debbie, but I am Julian, not Julie. Debbie smiled at first, but smile turned to grimace, then to a half-started reply. She thought better of it and kept quiet. Phew! I had gotten away with it. I tried to untie the apron before sitting down. Stop that, Julian, you may as well leave it on because I will be asking you to help Jamie clear the table and wash up afterwards, Mom said. Reluctantly, I sat down, unconsciously brushing the skirt of the apron under me as I sat. Oh my, Julie, you're getting the hang of sitting with skirts, aren't you? Been practicing? Debbie sneered. I have not, I must have remembered from when you told us about it just before. I almost yelled back, my cheeks flushing. Now, settle down, Mom said, then giving a speculative look at it, but you are a quick learner, aren't you, dear? I lowered my head, feeling my cheeks get hotter. Trouble was, I looked at a very feminine lap, with the frilly apron looking like a skirt. Flustered, I looked up. Everyone had lost interest in me and had started eating. Relieved, I started eating too, the food almost sticking in my throat. After dinner, I got up and helped Jamie clear up the dishes while Mom, Debbie and Jonah went to watch TV. Jamie had gotten over his crying and had settled down into a glum disposition, which cast a shadow over my feeling too. Was I now pegged to be a maid? I did not want any of it. Seeing Jamie in such a feminine uniform sent shivers of dread down my spine. We soon got into a routine, Jamie washing and me drying and putting everything away. We finished the dishes quickly, Jamie brightening up a little. We make a great team, Julian, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if you were a maid too, then we could. Jamie stopped as I shot daggers at him. Oh no, you don't, Jamie, you won't see me becoming a maid, I said as I turned my head and tried to untie the apron strings. It was too difficult for me and I was getting frustrated. I looked up to ask Jamie's help, but he had left the kitchen. There was nothing for it but to ask Mom to help untie the apron. I walked into the lounge room. Mom, could you please untie this apron? We're finished in the kitchen now, I half begged. Mom looked up at me. You look so sweet in that apron, sure you want it off so soon, Mom, please untie me, I've been good and helped. Okay, sweetie, you're right, come here and I'll untie you. Mom untied me and I thankfully put the apron back in the kitchen where it belonged. I took my place in front of the TV, curious why Jonah looked so uncomfortable. As I looked at the TV, it slowly became apparent. They were watching a video explaining how boys really like to be feminine and should be given every opportunity to express their feminine side. The day was going from bad to worse. My cheeks flushed again. Stuck between Debbie and Mom on the couch, I tried not to cringe. See, said Debbie, they like girly things. That might be some boys, but that's not us, said Jonah, pipped up. I kept quiet, just glad to be out of that apron. The TV was showing how a mother was encouraging her son to feel the texture of the silken maid's uniform that she was holding up to him. He was only in his underpants while he slowly approached, hesitantly reached out and felt the hem of the dress. Feel how soft and silky it feels, Danny. Isn't it beautiful? The mother was saying. Yes, he was saying reluctantly. I thought you would like it. I know you really love to feel it, don't you, Danny? It does feel nice, Mom, but it's not what boys like, Mom. That's why you should try it on for me, darling, just for a little while, to see if you like it surrounding you, caressing you, hugging you, and with every step moving around your nylon-clad legs. The boy looked dreamily in front of him as his mother lifted the dress over his head and down his body. She quickly turned him around and zipped him into the dress. He did not respond, as if he were hypnotized. Now walk around, dear. See what I mean, isn't it dreamy? His mother was saying. He walked around the room and started to smile. Thank you, Mommy, this is the best feeling. Can I be a maid for you, please, Mommy? I don't want to lose this wonderful feeling. Music grew as credits started to roll. I looked uncomfortably at Mom and Debbie and knew that the propaganda just didn't come close to reality. Mom and Debbie were smiling while behind the credits, the boy was putting on pantyhose and the mother was getting an apron ready for him. It was soon wrapped around him and tied off in the back. I shivered in disgust, reflecting what happened to me. It seemed that Mom had similar plans for me. I thought that I should make myself scarce, so I yawned. Pardon me, Mom, I'm tired, so I think I'll go to bed. Give me a kiss, sweetie, Mom replied. I bent over to kiss her and she put her arm around my neck and pulled until I was forced onto her lap. Oh, my little sweet thing, you love your mummy, don't you, sitting on my lap like that, like a little daughter would. I didn't mean it, Mom, I must have lost my balance, I said, trying to sound convincing. Oh, I think my little girl deserves a twet for tonight, she replied with a smile on her face. Come with Mommy, my little pet. I caught Jonah smirking at me when I looked around. This was scary and embarrassing. I had no choice as she got up and, still holding my hand, led me to my room. She went to the wall cupboard and opened the highest door, one that I had never opened. Now undress for me, darling, Mom said. Reluctantly I took off my t-shirt and shorts. And your undies too, dear. Dread filled me. What had I done to deserve this? Whatever it was, I didn't think it would be good. Debbie had come to the door and was peering in. I looked at her, smiling and leering at the same time. Was it as if she was a hunter watching her prey struggling in a trap? Mom saw me looking at Debbie and hesitating. She turned and said, Debbie, leave us for now, you can look later, you're scaring the poor girl. This was not good. Why was Mom calling me a girl? Had she made up her mind already? Debbie left, Mom turned around and so the nightie came into view. Mom, I can wear that, I said somewhat lamely. Come, dear, it's treat, not a punishment. Hold up you hands. Reluctantly I did. Mom lowered the pink silky confection over my head. She fussed a little, brushing out the wrinkles. There's my Julie, don't you look a little cutie? Had Mom found out about our little adventure earlier today? Was I being set up? Into the kitchen with you, I'll get you some milk and cookies as a little supper treat. I walked into the kitchen, the nightie providing me with new sensations on my legs as I walked. I felt smooth, silky rubbing on my legs, and it was making me feel funny. Mom poured milk in a tall glass and gave me a little plate with 2 biscuits for Jonah and I. There you are, honey, she said. Finish up, then you can go to the toilet. Jonah, you finish yours up too. I'll see you tucked into bed later. I ate the biscuits slowly, alternating with a sip of milk. I felt a slowly increasing tingling in my nipples as I drank the milk. Oh no, the milk is triggering a flashback. I thought that I had better finish quickly and get into bed before Mom saw what was happening. My, that was quicker than usual. You better finish up before bed then. I walked to the toilet, and as I was closing the door, Mom said, "You had better sit to relieve yourself, dear. You don't want to get your new nightie soiled, and don't forget to wipe." I quickly sat and let go, feeling very embarrassed. Now Mom was treating me like a girl. I looked down, my nipples were poking through the top and looked a little swollen. I was in deep trouble. As I dried myself, I tried hunching my shoulders. That seemed to hide my new developments. I got up and out of the bathroom, shoulders hunched as much as I dared without looking too obvious. Mom didn't seem to notice as I washed my hands, brushed my teeth, and made a beeline for bed. Mom followed me and tucked me in bed. My chest was now covered. Oh, how I wished I could itch those nipples. It was almost making my eyes water. Mom noticed me squirming. "Don't worry, dear, I just wanted to see how you reacted to these clothes. I can see that you're still all boy. You can return the nightie in the morning." She leant over and kissed me good night. As the light went out and Mom departed, my hands shot up to my nipples. Oh no! I thought, milk brings on a flashback for me. How am I going to survive this? How long will it last? I spent a fitful few hours, worried, and noticed a couple of things. Once the itching stopped, so did the breast growth. The final size was only half what it was earlier today. My breasts slowly deflated down to normal in 10 minutes. It seemed the flashback was weaker than the original reaction to the cream. If I was lucky, the flashback reaction would get weaker each time. After some thinking of Jamie's situation and how awful it must be, how Mom was testing me more than Jonah, and how I'd had a couple of lucky escapes today, I had better make sure I don't do anything stupid again. It had all been too close for comfort. Morning arrived. The sound of birds outside my window triggered a flood of memories from yesterday. Oh, I still had on a pink nightie. I checked my breasts. They seemed flat, but was there a little puffiness? I got out of bed and threw off the nightie and looked in the mirror. I turned sideways. They were a little puffy but hardly noticeable. I quickly did my business and got dressed, not wanting to expose myself more than I had to. I picked the nightie off the floor and held it up, looking at the front of it. Mom came in while I was holding it up. "Did you like sleeping in the nightie, Julian?" she said, smiling, encouraging. "It was strange, Mom, but I didn't like it," I replied while lowering the nightie. Mom moved towards me. "Let me have a look at that. Did you stain it last night?" She said as she picked it up and examined it. I blushed with embarrassment. Another test. Did I stain it? I didn't notice anything. I held my breath as Mom looked for any telltale stains. "Looks like you were telling the truth, my boy. Now get dressed and off to breakfast." I quickly dressed in my school uniform and scooted out my room and to the kitchen. Jamie was already there in her maid's uniform. The table was set beautifully and bacon and eggs were cooking. So this is what we can expect now that we have a maid, I thought. Jonah and Debbie soon joined me for breakfast. "I am so looking forward to having a maid do things of us," Debbie exclaimed. "It's a pity you didn't come in that nightie last night, Julian, otherwise you would have been Julie today," Debbie said to me. This was news to Jonah, who didn't know what tests Mom put me through last night. He gave me a little startled look before remembering to mind his own business when Debbie and Mom were about. After breakfast, Jonah and I headed off for school, walking on a warm sunny morning. Jamie would have to change to his regular boy's outer clothes and matching bra and panties underneath before he could go, so Mom would be driving him to school. That way, he had no chance of changing his underwear on the way. It was a bright sunny morning with a fresh breeze. The birds were chirping in the street trees as we passed, in contrast to the gloom I felt. "You got the treatment last night, Julian. What happened?" "I thought you were a goner for sure," asked Jonah. "Mom was testing me obviously." That was scary enough, but what you don't know is that I got a flashback by drinking milk. "What?" Jonah exclaimed. "What happened exactly?" "I didn't see anything. It started with an itching in my chest when I drank the milk last night and started swelling before I could get into bed. It was a close thing. I nearly got caught." "Wow. You're so lucky you got away with that," Jonah said, smiling. Julian thought that Jonah was enjoying it too much for his comfort and was resentful. "You might think it's funny, but it wasn't for me." "Hey, wait a minute, Jonah. Did you get a flashback too?" "No, I didn't. I hope I don't get them either," Jonah said, "although you could get a rush out of living dangerously." "Come to think of it, it wouldn't be a rush. I'd be scared like crazy." Conversation stopped as friends approached from across the street. Things soon fell into routine and weeks passed before we noticed Jamie's breasts had grown and were now fully his own and that he was not wearing padding in his bra. Even in his school uniform, one could notice the two girly bumps on his chest, even though his sweater. Jonah and I were left alone by Mom and Debbie, who on the whole accepted that we weren't like Jamie. We were so careful to only present a manly side to them without being caricatures of macho males. We needed to convince them we were naturally boys. Jonah told me that he had a little flashback when he stared too long at Jamie's breasts and he started to get a hard-on. Seeing his breasts grow though made him go limp just as quickly, and his breasts returned from a small tennis ball size to nothing in 10 minutes. The worst part of it is that when I've been getting my morning hard-on, my breasts increased as size too. Fortunately, each time was less and less, so now there's nothing noticeable anymore. Jamie was getting to be a problem. She seemed set on one of us joining her as a maid. She would come into my room and ask my opinion on one of her uniforms, ask me to feel how soft and silky the material felt, and, "Oh, you have no idea how dreamy it is to wear this dress. Why don't we sneak into my room and you can play dress up?" It was almost like the propaganda we saw on TV every now and then. Of course, I always said no. I could tell he was getting frustrated with my lack of enthusiasm for his suggestions, so he started leaving things in my bathroom like floral-scented soap or a tube of lipstick. I picked up the lipstick when I found it and saw that long-lasting had been neatly scratched off the label. Sneaky sod. He was waiting for me to try it so I could get caught and sent off to get changed just like him. I would return his things saying things like, "Jamie, will you please remember not to leave your things in my room?" He would look disappointed, collected his things and put them back in his room. I heard a commotion one morning though as he heard Jamie loudly asking Jonah why he had found his panties in Jonah's drawer. "You've been putting your things in my and Julian's drawers trying to get us in trouble and join you, it's all you're doing." This argument sounded different to me though, as Jamie was acting like he hadn't set it all up, that he really did find his panties hidden in Jonah's drawer. Soon Jamie gave up and went away in disgust. One day, I was just trying to have a nap after a hard workout that morning and mowing the lawn in the afternoon when Jamie came into my room, her uniform enhancing her growing breasts, slimmer waist and wider hips. "Jamie, I didn't call you. How come you're here? You looked so stiff and sore when you finished the yard. I just thought that you could really use some of this deep heat cream to soothe your muscles." Jamie replied. That was so nice of Jamie. He hadn't tried anything fishy in a while and I was thinking that he had given up trying to trap me. "Yeah, thanks, leave it on the bedside table, I'll use it later," I replied. "Julian, can I practice my massage techniques with it? I've been having lessons while you guys are out playing sports." Now I was a little suspicious. Why would he want to create extra work for himself? Then again, I was getting used to have her doing things for me. This could make a nice addition. Sure, why not, I replied, but first let me see the label on the tube. I was still cautious enough to at least check out what he was putting on me. Denker up, hey, it smells the same, so sure, go ahead and rub it in for me. Jamie's face lit up. He had become so subservient over the last few months, he was getting pleasure out of doing everyone's bidding. I stripped off to my jocks and lay back on the bed, face down. Rub it into my shoulders, Jamie, that's where it hurts the most, then do my legs, they're stiff from the run I did this morning, I said as I closed my eyes. Jamie rubbed the cream in and I noticed that it did have a relaxing, soothing effect. I soon turned around and he rubbed the cream into my chest, pecs, arms and legs. It actually felt really good. After Jamie departed with the tube, I slept a little and felt refreshed when I woke. I got up to have a pee, so went to the bathroom. As I was still stripped to my jocks, I looked at myself in the mirror. I liked to see how my body was developing with all the gym work. I looked the same as before, but it seemed that I was slightly smaller. I must be dreaming, I thought, too anxious to build up my body so Mom and Debbie don't think I'm a maid wannabe like Jamie. I realized I wasn't sore from the gym and run anymore, that cream really worked. Without thinking further about it, I did my ablutions, put on my t-shirt and headed out to the lounge room. The massage became a little ritual after that. Jamie came in after gym and would rub in the cream. It was making my skin softer than it had been since I was younger, but I didn't really think much of it. Just that having soft hands wasn't such a good thing for a boy. And what was happening to my bodybuilding physique? It seemed to be going backwards bit by bit, no matter how much harder I trained. My body, arms, legs were getting skinny as a girl's. And that little bit of body hair I was developing was gone. I was starting to worry, what on earth was happening to me? I thought hard through as I sat at the breakfast table. Jonah, who was already there, noticed my distracted air. "What's up, Julian?" he asked just as Jamie was taking away the breakfast dishes. I waited until Jamie returned to the kitchen. I leaned over and half whispered, "Something's wrong, I'm becoming skinnier and weaker, even though I'm working out as hard as I can. I'm able to do less and less at the gym, I can't lift as much weight as I used to." I didn't want to add that he thought that my breasts seemed to be swelling just a little as well. "Yeah, I noticed, I'm actually taller than you now, I reckon by a few inches. You're about the same size as the girls in our class while the boys are having their growth spurt," Jonah observed. "Oh shit, you don't think you've been slipped some feminine, do you?" I nearly did embarrass myself as I felt my bowels loosened and a flock of butterflies suddenly fluttered around in my stomach. "But who would do that?" I asked. "What's been different lately, Julian? Anything that just started with you that could have introduced feminine to your body?" I racked my brains. Was my food or drink being spiked? Nothing tasted different. Jonah shared meals with me, so I couldn't see what it could have been. Was it something I was exposed to? Toothpaste, soap, doctored shampoo? No, Jonah used them too. Then I thought of the massage cream. "Has Jamie been giving you massages after gym?" I asked. Jonah's puzzled look said it all. "No," he answered. "That little bitch has been massaging the stuff into me with her massage cream." I almost yelled but managed to keep it to a whispered roar. "What's got you all excited?" Debbie said as she walked into the room. The last people I was going to confide in were Debbie and Mom. Jonah told me a friend at school copied from my exam paper. Now I might be accused of cheating, I said on the spur of the moment. "Well, you better have not cheated," Debbie said as she sat down to the breakfast table. Mom came in, catching the last of Debbie's reply. "What's this about cheating?" "Jonah thinks that someone at school copied from Julian's exam paper," Debbie repeated. Well, so long as you don't cheat, young man, Mom said as she sat down. On cue, Jamie came flouncing into the room with 2 plates piled with bacon and scrambled eggs and toast. He had on a silky black maid's dress coming down to mid-thigh, flaring out with the aid of layers of petticoats and a tiny white frilly apron. The waft of perfume hit me and Jonah at the same time. Shying away from Jamie as he leant past me to put the plates down, he said, "Don't you think you overdid it with the perfume, Jamie?" Jamie put the plates down, smiled at me and said, "Isn't it a gorgeous scent? I could loan you some if you want." "No thanks," I scowled. "You boys could do with a sweeter scent. Boy smells are so yuck," added Debbie. Jamie smiled smugly at me and returned to the kitchen. The family started breakfast as Jamie re-emerged with a tray of drinks. He methodically set down glasses of orange juice for Mom and Debbie and milk for Jonah and me. My heart sank as he saw the milk. Mom was a stickler for finishing everything at the table. "I'll drink it last," he thought, then rush off to brush my teeth and then out the door to school. As I finished my bacon and eggs, I drank his milk, just as Debbie rose from the table and left. "Oh no, she'll beat me to the bathroom," I thought, as the familiar tingling started in my chest. I finished his drink, got up and excused himself. I went straight to the bathroom and sure enough the door was closed. "Debbie, hurry up or I'll be late for school," I said as I noticed 2 little bumps forming on his chest. "Oh no, what am I going to do?" I thought. I retreated to his room to wait for Debbie to leave. I did not want to be seen by Debbie or Mom with 2 bumps on my chest. The tingling seemed to intensify and my chest was getting hot. I looked down and saw that the bumps had turned into pointy cones. In shock, I covered them with his hands. I had to hide them somehow, but how without getting everyone suspicious? Thinking frantically, I stripped to the waist and put on a t-shirt that I knew I had outgrown and was really tight. It seemed to do the job of squashing down my emerging breasts. I put my shirt and sweater back on, then looked at myself in the mirror. I had succeeded. Nothing looked out of the ordinary. I heard Debbie leaving the bathroom, so I charged in there, brushed my teeth and tried to hurry out the door. Jamie was there with Mom looking expectantly at me as I walked by. I saw a look of disappointment on Jamie's face as I kissed Mom goodbye. I kept a straight face, acting as if nothing had happened, but now I knew for sure that Jamie had been scheming to get me into a maid's uniform too. It was so well planned with Mom there to witness the changes. I could feel the pressure on my chest slowly subside while on the school bus with Jonah. It was so hard trying to act normal when I was worried out of my mind. What would happen now that I had been exposed to feminine in the cream, and how would it affect this reaction to milk? It seemed to be worse than last time, lasting longer, and the breasts were a little bigger. Will my breasts subside completely? Although the pressure on my chest was decreasing, he could tell that it was subsiding slower than before. I felt uncomfortable and awkward, but Jonah was talking to me and I had to concentrate. "Sorry, what did you say?" I said that was a close call. "Yeah, but I'm not out of the woods yet." They're much smaller than before, but still there were little bumps showing through. Jonah sympathized with me, telling me of his morning problems. "When I get a hard-on, my breasts swell, that is my flashback. It's been hell in the mornings, and especially if I lust after a pretty girl at any time of the day or night. It's such a curse, I have to keep my thoughts away from girls and sex." I was surprised, then sympathetically at Jonah. "No more of these foolish dares, Jonah, it's gotten totally out of hand." Jonah shrugged and agreed, but his smile seemed to express something else. A week later I was going to his room when he passed the open doorway to Jamie's room, where he heard Jonah asking Jamie, "Do the petticoats tickle your legs though?" Jonah was asking. I continued to walk past, having caught a glimpse of the 2 backs to the door, bending over. It looked like Jonah was feeling the hem of the maid's uniform. I stopped a few feet past the door and listened. "Oh no," Jamie replied, "it's more like a heavenly caress, I can't get enough of it. Now do you want to try it on while Mom and Debbie are out shopping? Then you'll see what I mean. But Julian and I have had so many close calls lately, I don't want to get caught." "Do tell, what close calls?" Jamie asked. I bit my lip to stop himself from beating a path to the open door to belt the living daylights out of Jonah. Didn't he know that Jamie was out to get them in the same position as he was in and would use any snippet of information against them? Well, don't tell Julian I told you this, but for a dare, I convinced Julian to try out your breast cream. He wouldn't do it without me, so I had to play along. He had a massive pair of tits when I gave him about twice what was on the label, and it took him some time for them to go down. He nearly got caught. I applied as little as possible when he caught me trying to get out of it. My reaction was minimal with no flashbacks, although I told him I had them when I got an erection. I could hear sounds of barely suppressed giggling. Jonah sounded just like a little sissy sharing secrets. The twerp! I couldn't believe it. Jonah was deliberately getting me in danger of being caught out and having to get the feminine treatment. He, on the other hand, looked like he was more interested in getting it. I crept to my room, not wanting to be caught listening to that conversation. So, Jonah has been dragging me along the path to feminization and being an unpaid maid. I will have to be on the lookout now. I was seething, and my strongest impulse was to go in there and have it out with him, but I thought it was best to keep this to myself and keep a lookout. I had the advantage now. About half an hour before Mom and Debbie were due to get home, Jamie came into my room and asked if I needed anything at the shops. He was going to get some groceries. "No, nothing, Jamie," I said carelessly as I was writing up some school notes on my computer. I wondered why Jamie had asked, then why he was leaving so noisily, banging the door shut. It didn't take long for Jonah to come into Julian's room all excited. "Hey, wanna have some fun?" he asked. My suspicion level just reached 10 out of 10, but I thought I would play along. Sure enough, I saw a maid's uniform in Jonah's hands. I thought that rat Jamie deserves a little of his own medicine. He's been trying to get us into trouble for weeks. Johann said. "What did you have in mind?" Julian responded with fake enthusiasm. "I thought we could stretch his uniform out of shape. He would get into trouble for not looking after it," Jonah said, waving it about. "Okay, how are we gonna do that?" I asked cautiously. I tried to stretch it by myself, but it was no good. "I thought if you wore it and bounced around in it, you could stretch it easy," he said with eyes wide and a cheese-eating grin. "Why me? It seems you come up with these plans and I take the risks." "You're more his size, if anything. It would be too much of a squeeze for me," replied Jonah. Now I knew where he was coming from. Get caught in the uniform when Debbie and Mom come home and Jonah would be conveniently out of the room. But if it's harder of you to get in it, then you would find it easier to stretch it out of shape. "No, I reckon you can get in it," I snapped back. "Well, maybe not. I think it would take too long to squeeze into it and Mom and Debbie could catch me. But you could get in and out of it in no time," Jonah said with enthusiasm lighting up his face. It looked false to me now that I knew what he was up to. "No, I don't think so. Just take it back to Jamie's room. Neither of us is going to do that now." Jonah left, obviously dejected. My God, once you know what to look for, you can read him like a book, I thought. Jonah had gone only 3 minutes when he heard the front door open and Debbie and Mom come in. Both walking quickly to Mai's room. Both looked in and looked disappointed to see me working on the computer. "They're all involved," I thought as I heard them go into Jonah's room and a quiet conversation ensued. Suddenly the voices got louder. No, no, I don't want to go, Jonah was yelling. Well, Missy, why were you trying to hide Jamie's uniform? Looks like we caught you red-handed attempting to try it on, Mom was yelling. I quickly reevaluated the situation. Mom and Debbie weren't involved, otherwise they wouldn't be reacting this way. I got up from his chair and turned towards the door. Looks like you'll be the only male here after today, Julian. I just caught Jonah, or should I say Joan with Jamie's maid uniform. Jonah was yelling, no, no, it's a mistake. I took it from Julian. He was going to wear it and I was going to put it back. I was trying to save him. Suddenly all was quiet. Mom came back to my room. Is this true, Julian? You were going to wear it? Mom said with a come-hither grin. No, Mom, honest, I don't know anything about it. I was working on the computer all afternoon, honest. Okay, I believe you. Let's go, Joan. Feminine is waiting for you. The struggle continued down the hallway while I nearly collapsed with relief. Jamie and Mom were taking Jonah to the clinic. After the silence which reigned over the house for 10 minutes when Mom's car took off for the clinic, I suddenly realized that that was one close escape, but when Jonah came back, he and Jamie would be free to gang up on him. Debbie came into my room after 10 minutes of relative quiet. I gave a little jump in his seat as he had forgotten that Debbie was still at home. Julian, she said, did you know that Jonah was interested in dressing as a maid? No, it was a surprise to me. He must have been sneaking off to try it out in private. It's no big deal. Many boys like a little touch of femininity every once in a while. I bet you've often wondered what wearing a lovely skirt or dress feels like. No, I haven't, Julian said, trying to keep his voice calm. Dresses are so soft and slinky, it feels like someone is caressing you all day long. You could try it a little bit before Mom gets back if you like. I won't tell. Here, feel how wonderful my skirt feels, Debbie said as she had moved up to me and with her hand, picked up the hem of the dress and stroked my cheek with the soft cool satin. Oh no! Not that propaganda trick again. I thought as I shied away. Doesn't it feel soft and smooth? Doesn't it make you want to wear it? Debbie insisted. Yes, it does feel soft and smooth, but I'm not going to wear it. Come on, Mom won't ever know and I won't tell. I'm dying to see what you would look like as my little sister. Stop annoying me, I won't fall for that trick. I exclaimed as I turned around and began typing on his computer, hoping Debbie would leave him alone. Debbie turned and began to walk out of the room, but while I was working on my computer, she managed to slip one of her lacy pink panties under his mattress. I couldn't concentrate on my work. I felt more alone than ever. I would be the only boy and I felt under pressure from Jamie. I also knew that when Jonah as Joan made her appearance, she and Jamie would find countless opportunities to get me in the same position. After what seemed like hours, I heard car doors slam and knew that Mom and the new Joan have come back. I got up from my desk and walked into the hallway and towards the front door. I heard footsteps getting closer. Debbie joined me, waiting for the door to open. The door opened and in walked Mom with an abashed-looking maid behind her, Jamie following behind, beaming at her new companion. It made my stomach lurch thinking it could have been me if Jonah had succeeded in tricking me. Head bowed, Jonah, now Joan walked in, dressed in a light pink maid's uniform, the same style that Jamie was wearing. Well, I see I have a reception party waiting for me, Mom said with a cheese-eating grin. Say hello to Joan, Debbie's new personal maid. Debbie happily rushed to Joan and gave her a big hug saying, "Oh, it's so wonderful to have someone who will cater to my every whim. We can finally really talk to and share our feelings and maybe understand each other better." Don't touch me, I don't like this one little bit. You're the one with Jamie that tried to get me into this situation. Just leave me alone, Joan said as she disentangled herself from Debbie's grasp and headed for her room carrying an armful of shopping bags. Mom followed Joan into her room and like déjà vu, I heard her say, "Take out all your boy clothes and replace them with these Maid uniforms and lingerie. You will have no use for boy clothes anymore." Jamie turned to me as I was still looking towards Joan's room and whispered seductively, "Just think of all those wonderful soft clothes Joan is now free to wear without any worries, free to feel the soft silky caress of these wonderful clothes. Just imaging if you were in her place, how wonderful it would feel." I couldn't believe Jamie could be so heartless towards Joan's predicament and so callous towards me. I glowered at him and stormed off to my room. "No way!" I yelled. I shut my door, walked past the neat pile of Maid's uniform on my shelf with a tremor of disgust and fear. I sat down at the computer again but knew I couldn't get to schoolwork again, I was too tense. I was staring blankly at the screen where I had a half-written essay when Mom came in. "I'm still not convinced that you had nothing to do with Jones playing around with Jamie's uniform. Tell me exactly what happened. But I'm warning you that if I find out that you've lied to me there will be serious consequences," Mom said. I turned around from the computer screen, ready to tell how Johan had come in and tried to get me to stretch Jamie's uniform when my eye caught the sight of a small piece of lace-lined, slinky pink cloth just poking out from under my mattress. Mom had her back turned to it. My eyes suddenly widened, I could feel myself blush as I gulped air like a fish. "I see you're nervous so you better tell me the truth," Mom said. "I'm nervous 'cause I don't want to be a maid, Mom," I said, trying to look at her and not the sight of the panties poking out. I was thinking rapidly, Jamie must have put them there when she came in earlier. How could I win against the two of them? Jamie and Joan have been trying to get me into a maid's uniform and into trouble from even before James was caught. I felt he had a plan now, tell Mom everything, even the things he'd overheard Jamie telling her to make it more convincing. She'd believe him. He hoped. It started with Jamie's obsession with the maid's uniform. I think he really wanted to be girly Mom. He tried to hide it out in the open by pretending to dress in the uniforms as a dare. He even convinced me and Jonah that it was a super dare to put them on and wear them for 10 minutes without getting caught. "Mom, we actually did it, but not because we were wanting to, it was a dare, that's all, I never did it again." Jamie kept doing it and of course, you eventually caught him. So he deserved it and I think he's happy like that. But he wants to share his situation with us so he's been trying to trap us so that you will give us feminine as well. Yes, but that doesn't explain Jonah's action today. Tell me about that, Mom said sternly, what you've already said means that you're skating on thin ice here. I replied with a shrug and a sigh. Jonah came into my room today and tried to convince me to wear Jamie's uniform to stretch it and get him into trouble. I said I wasn't going to do it so he went out. It just was after that you came home and caught him with the uniform. Mom gave me a skeptical look. I'm still not convinced. You look awfully nervous to me, like you're trying to hide something. Julian's heart skipped a beat and he reflexively looked at the panties sticking out from his bed. Mom saw me glance towards the bed and turned around. She saw the panties. How dare you lie to me? What's this? Have you been secretly wearing panties? What else have you got in here? My heart was racing, pounding against my chest. How could that have gotten there? Jamie came in before, he must have put it there. Debbie came in too while you and Jonah were away. She could have put it there too. It was Jamie, she was here when you were out. She was trying to get me to put on a uniform, I swear, she must have. Mom slapped me in the face so suddenly and so hard, tears started to form in my eyes. First Jamie, then Debbie, then Jamie again. This is getting much harder to believe, you little sissy, she yelled. Well, let's see what else you have been hiding in here, shall we? Honest, Mom, there's nothing else except the maid's uniform and I haven't touched that. We'll see about that, she said. Mom went over to the pile of clothes and flipped through the layers. She stopped and picked out a pink lacy bra. This is not part of the uniform. She put it to her nose, and it smelled like it's been worn a lot without washing it. My mouth was agape. I tried to speak, tears were blurring my vision. Just then Jamie came in and said, "Oh, I was looking for that Julian. Have you finished with it yet?" he said, smiling. This looked so bad, all I could say was I, before Mom stepped up to me and took me by the arm and started to walk me out of the room. "Well, now I have to go back to the doctor's again today. You could have saved me the trouble and gone with Jonah." "No, Mom, no, I was set up. You've got to believe me," I said, frantically shaking my head. She was too strong for me, and soon I found myself sitting in the car, being driven to the doctor's office. Well, soon all my former boys will be maids. It will be nice to be weighted on hand and foot. It must have come from your father's genes. I haven't told you this, but he did not go overseas for work. He is a maid for a friend across town. I caught him sniffing my panties in the laundry, so I slipped him feminine cream in his denkarub. He had to leave when his breasts grew too big to hide. Oh no, I thought it was true about the denkarub. No wonder I'm so small now and as skinny in the arms and legs as a girl. I was lost in thought when Mom parked outside the clinic. Mom got out of the car. I didn't want to go in and held onto the edge of the seat as hard as I could when Mom opened my door. "Julian, come out this instant." I held on tightly. Mom saw what I was doing and quickly reached in and without any apparent effort, dragged me out of the car and into the clinic. "Heather, I have my other son here for the same treatment. I caught him when I came home with Joan," Mom said. Heather stepped from behind the reception desk and took me to a doctor's room and told me to strip and get into the examination gown, ready for the doctor. She then left, locking the door behind her. I was trapped with no way out. Even the window had been locked. I looked at the examination table. There lay a pink disposable gown. Hesitantly, I stripped off all my clothes and put on the gown. I was still trying to tie the back ties when I heard the door unlock. Dr. Smythe came in smiling, trying to put me at ease. Your mother had had her hands full, hasn't she?" the doctor said as she approached. Dr. Smythe was middle-aged, wearing black skirt and white chiffon blouse, her lacy bra showing through. "So it looks like all you former boys wanted to be on the other side." "No, I was set up by Jamie, really. He wanted us all to be maids together. He put a panty under my mattress and his bra in a pile of clothes, so I could get caught, honest," I said, desperate to be believed. My last chance. "That's not what your mother told me. Now lie on the examination table and I'll examine you." I lay on the table as the doctor examined me. With your physique, your arms and legs look distinctly feminine. Have you been into some feminine cream? Lots of curious boys try a little, but it looks like you have been using it regularly enough to kickstart your conversion. There is enough evidence here to convince me that you really do want to be feminine. Your penis and testicles have already shrunken, and there's some development of the areola with a little puffiness underneath. No, it was Jamie, she. I stuttered. Now stop blaming everyone except yourself. You won't convince me that you don't want this. Most boys get so scared at this point, they will say anything, so don't try and convince me otherwise. Dr. Smythe turned around to the medicine cabinet and took out 2 pre-loaded syringes. "Now, this will give you a tiny prick, I love that joke, when I insert it into your nipple. Your body has already been well prepared, so you should be getting your breasts growing sooner than Jones," she said as she grabbed one nipple, inserted the needle and depressed the plunger. The other syringe followed soon after the first. It's done now, Julie. You will never be a man. You will always be a maid for your mother and sister. What I have given you all was the newly enhanced feminine, which will eventually make your testes shrink to nothing, and your penis, small as it is now, will shrink even further so it will be the same size as a woman's clitoris. You and Joan and Jamie will have to sit to pee. It will make you feel even more feminine. You just won't have a vagina. I was devastated. Once a person has had the feminine injection, they were treated as female and were not allowed to return to male clothes or names. I felt a tingling in my nipples as warmth spread from there to my breasts. I couldn't help thinking of myself as she and her as society expected. Dr. Smythe opened the cupboard next to the medicine cabinet. Here are uniform packs for new transformees. What size were you, Julie? I was a size 10, boys. Well, that means you're now a size 5, girls. Here is your new Maid's pack. Open it up and take out what you need to get dressed, Dr. Smythe said as she handed over a large plastic bag. After the doctor left, I despondently opened the bag. I found neatly folded lingerie of bra, panties, a camisole and pantyhose on top of a folded light pink garment. I took out the lingerie and picked up the panties. They felt so silky and smooth as I slid them up my legs to settle around my bottom. The little bulge in my panties at odds with the garment. The training bra matched the panties and was difficult to put on, not having experience in closing it in the back. It felt constricting, and the pressure of the straps across my shoulders almost made me cry as I realized I would feel it for my whole life from now on. I slipped on the camisole, then sat to put on the pantyhose. I tried putting hose on without bunching it up at first, which was unsuccessful, then worked out how to do it properly. They felt so slinky, and with all the other lingerie, I started to feel the full effect of the smooth clothes on my body. At last it was time to put on the maid's dress. The dress zipped up at the back. I picked it up, dreading this final submission to the life of a maid. I unzipped it, noting the skirt part flaring out and seeing the sewn-in petticoat layers. I held the shoulders of the dress and stepped into it, then raised it higher over my body. I put one arm after the other through the sleeves and shifted the shoulders into place. I couldn't help but let a quiet sob escape as I looked down the front of my body and saw that feminine image. Putting my hands behind my back, try as I might, I could only zip up the zip just over halfway. I had to call for help. Mom came in and finished the job, smiling and saying with a tinge of regret, "Julie, I thought you might escape this treatment, but it seems you just got caught up in the whole silly business. I did test you most severely like the other boys to be sure you weren't falling for that silly attitude, but I was wrong. I will not stand for boys playing at being girls." I knew then that it wasn't Mom that was so keen on getting us to be maids, it was Jamie and Joan. And Debbie, she wanted all of us to be maids so she could lead an easy life. What chance did I really have in the long run? "But Mom, I was set up. I didn't want this," I said, waving my hands down along the maid's uniform. "I didn't touch those clothes you found. They must have been planted there." "Well, it's too late now, Julie. You are a maid now and forever," Mom said with a sad smile as we made our way out of the doctor's office.